Hello and welcome to Cane Matters. I'm your host Sonia Campbell, and today we're talking about an industry challenge that is as old as farming itself really, and a very modern solution that is changing the game for growers in tackling the problem: weeds, and more specifically, weed identification. Recently, Sugar Research Australia collaborated with developers of a global app to provide Australian sugarcane growers with a free tool to easily identify weeds and other invasive flora on their farms, on the spot and right in the palm of their hands. ntNet uses AI recognition technology to identify plants simply by uploading images of the plant onto your mobile phone. This project was led by SRA's Weed Science Leader Emilie Fillols, who joins me today. Welcome, Emilie.
Thank you, Sonia.
Now, ntNet really is a game changer in weed control. What made you collaborate with the app makers and develop this project?
Well, as you said, weed control is a huge problem for the sugar industry, and it's been estimated to cost the sugar industry about 50 million annually, and the crop loss due to the weed competition is an extra $33 million annually. So it is a big problem that growers need to tackle. To optimize weed control, it's essential to know the weed species that you are targeting, because some weed species will require different weed management approaches than others. Some weed species, for example, are more tolerant to some herbicides than others. And if there is a new weed species that popped up on your farm, it's important to know if it's an invasive species that may require specific attention. When it's about to identify plant species, traditional methods can be very tedious and require botanical skills. That's where modern technology is now used to simplify your life. So ntNet, why did we choose ntNet? Because it's one of the world's largest biodiversity observatories, which have already several million contributors in over 200 countries around the world. To date, they've got about 52,000 plant species already in their database, and more than 1.1 billion images. So the large majority of the species we are interested in for sugarcane in Australia were already in the database. So most of the work was already done. And it's a very easy tool that is available as an app on your phone or on the web, and it helps you identify plants thanks to your pictures.
How does ntNet work?
So ntNet is a citizen science platform, and it uses artificial intelligence to facilitate the identification of plant species. So it's based on a cooperative learning principle. Users create an account. They share their observations that are reviewed by the community, and very qualified users like botanists carry a lot more weight than novice users when it comes to reviewing. And only the observation that achieve a sufficient degree of confidence will be added to the public database and used to train the AI to better recognize the plant. ntNet will also retrain their AI on a monthly basis to take into account these new validated observations by professionals, and also all the revisions made by this professional to enhance the algorithm even further.
Okay, so it's like crowdsourcing plant identification, but a lot more sophisticated because it's constantly updating.
Yep, every month they retrain the AI.
You collaborated with ntNet to develop a micro project within the app, which essentially is a separate portal on the program because you wanted something tailored specifically for Australian sugarcane growers. Tell us about the micro project and why you wanted to design it with ntNet.
As I said, most of the species were already in the database. However, they were not all in there. And when I reviewed the relevant species for sugarcane in Australia, I realized that we needed about 327 actually weed species that are encountered in our sugarcane field. And I would say 90% of them were already in their database. So it was just about adding the missing ones, giving them the pictures and the right name. All the other ones were already in there. However, we created a micro project within ntNet, which is called Weeds of Sugarcane in Australia. And so this micro project is containing that specific flora of these most common 327 weed species. And the benefit of having a specific flora is to narrow down the number of species from the 51,000 species in the world database down to 327. And that actually greatly improves the matching capabilities of the AI when people take a picture. And another benefit of doing a micro project with ntNet was to ensure that the common names in our micro project are the Australian common names, so the one you're familiar with.
What you've created is something that is made to measure for our growers and such a handy, easy to use tool. If a grower is trying to identify a plant and can't find a match, they also have the option of trying the global ntNet database?
It's correct. So if you're trying to take a picture that doesn't belong to the 327 species that I've selected for this micro project, the ntNet will prompt you and tell you that there's no match and offer you to look into the world database. And it's likely that your species will be in the world database. Just be aware that when you use the world database, the Australian common name is not going to be the one displayed because it's not an Australian platform. So you will have to refer to the Latin name just to be sure that you're talking about the right species and not being misled.
How do growers use the app?
Well, it's very simple. First thing, you have to download the app on your phone. It is completely free and there's no hidden fees. So you can be reassured that there won't be any surprise. When you download it, it is best if you create an account and share your geolocation so you can fully contribute to the platform. It helps it grows and improve over time.
When you said then it helps to grow,
Yep.
How is that improving the app?
The more pictures for one species will give different environments where that species can be found, different lighting condition, different background, different stages of the plant. For example, if you got one species and only 2 images to recognize it, it's going to be a very difficult task for the AI. While if you already got 600 pictures of that specific weed in very different stages and very different environmental condition, lighting, etc., there will always going to be one that really match any new picture coming in the system. So the likelihood for correct matching will be a lot higher. So by contributing with new picture, you just make this matching even better.
So once you've installed the app, what is the process?
Well, it's very simple. Once it's installed, ideally you already created an account so you can contribute, but then you just go and take pictures of some unknown weeds on your farm that you want to know. And the app will instantly identify the species for you. So really, there's nothing much to it. Just make sure when you take your picture that they are in focus. Ideally, take picture of the plant at a mature stage, which means with flowers or fruits. And make sure there's not too many other type of plant species in the frame. Otherwise, it will just get you the AI confused. And there is an opportunity to upload several pictures of the same plant species. And it's actually recommended. So if you can put one picture of a leaf, one picture of a flower, one picture of a fruit, one picture of the general habitat, it's perfect. It will improve the correct species matching to the ntNet database.
What if you've tried to identify a weed in the micro project and then you've had no success there and you've tried the global database and you've come up with nothing? What do you do then?
It's true. Even if ntNet database is one of the most extensive in the world currently, it is still possible that the plant you are trying to identify is not in that database. Also, grass species can be particularly challenging to identify because of the very small size of their seed heads, for example. In doubt, it's always recommended to check with an expert. And at last resort, you always can get in touch with the Queensland Herbarium and send them a plant sample.
So you are SRA's expert in weed management and weed control. You speak to growers all the time about their weed issues. Is it common that growers can't identify a weed on their farm?
Well, growers often have questions on new things that popped up. Obviously, they've never seen it before, so they would definitely want to know what it is. And it's important to get it right, especially if it's an invasive plant that needs to be tackled straight away. So in this specific case, yes, it's important that growers know what new pops up on their farm. And otherwise, there are cases of misidentifications where people think that they know what it is, or they call it a common name. But the common name varies from one district to the next, so it can be very tricky. And sometimes, at the end of the day, for years they believe they have one weed species, and it's not the one they thought they had, just because of these issues with common names. It's better for an improved weed management to ensure the species you're trying to target are identified correctly to have the best weed management control for them.
What can't the app do?
Well, ntNet will not give you the control method for the identified weed species. It's only an identification tool. So you will then need to check your weed management manual or the DPI website, consult the PubCris database on the APVMA website, or you contact your advisor. It's not going to tell you what herbicides or alternative control method you need to use for that specific weed species, but it will tell you what the exact weed species you are targeting.
There are other apps out there in the world that do identify weeds. Why did you pick ntNet?
Because it's free of charge. It has one of the most extensive databases already in the system. And because when I tested everything that was available, it was the one that gave me the best matching rate for the weed species we had in cane paddocks. So it was just the most obvious choice.
Are you still working on refining the app?
Well, refining the app, it's ntNet working on it, and it's constant. It's the way it works. What we're working on with ntNet is trying to improve some features of the micro project. For example, at the minute, we're trying to include the declaration status of the plant species in Queensland and New South Wales. So if you take a picture, for example, of a plant that is declared in Queensland, it will display a link to the Queensland government website where you can have more information about what to do for this specific threat.
So ntNet is weed recognition made easy. It is a great tool that allows you to find out exactly what species you've got in your field. It is the first crucial step when managing weeds. It does raise a question, Emilie. Consider this mix of blending citizen science and this type of technology using powerful AI, how this could be applied elsewhere in the industry, whether it could help with solving other tricky problems. Definitely food for thought. Thank you, Emilie, for joining us today.
Thank you, Sonia.
If you would like more information on ntNet or would like to view the video tutorial on how to use the app, go to SRA's website homepage at sugarresearch.com.au. Scroll down to the app's Tools and Resources tab at the bottom of the page. Thanks for listening to Cane Matters.